Alright, first of all, after seeing a preview, I think Frozen is just going to be Tangled all over again. It's not even the Snow Queen, nor is it Wicked, even if it does have Buzz voice. I'll explain more about that as the movie approaches. The nut job seems good, perhaps a new twist on Over the Hedge, and now it's time for the review of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I'm going to leave out more details in this review, so I'm not summarizing the movie. I feel like this should be a really good review. This was a really good movie, and that surprised me. It was actually better than the first. Very, very rarely does that ever happen. And let me tell you that I was just really surprised, pleasantly surprised. So before I start rattling into the review, I give it an 8 out of 11. The introduction adds new info, but also reviews the first movie, the plot, and everything. There's also a quick introduction to Chester V, who is going to be our, you guessed it, bad guy. He is not seen in any of the trailers that I've seen. I read it in the movie info that Chester V is Flint's idol. But Chester V is going to be our bad guy. He tricks very soon in the movie, just a couple minutes in, he tricks everyone from Swallow Falls into leaving Swallow Falls so he can fix Swallow Falls. Little do they know, he actually wants to capture the food machine, the Flint Stephenser. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Flint Stephenser. Not knowing this, he starts to work for his idol, Chester V, hoping he can become a think-a-not, or whatever they call it. Think-one-not. Skip to 6 months later. By the way, there have been plenty of comic bits and jokes in this movie. It is looking like it might be the first at that point, which of course it did. But again, the first one, a 6 or 7, I don't remember, but didn't get an 8. I'll skip the next few minutes so that you guys can have some laughs, to where he is first asked to stop the Flint Stephenser. Earl and Manny join up as well. Earl, of course, being the police officer from the first movie, and Manny being the cameraman who's with Sam. His dad and Brent, who Flint insists stay at the boat. He insists his dad stay at the boat, which he does. They go to the island, and where will this movie go from here? Now we're at the island. He's there. Flint is there with Sam, baby Brent, who's now just Brent, Earl, and Manny, and his dad is on the boat. The movie progresses with the group adventuring throughout the island until minutes in, when they come to an area where there are many different animals made of food. Now Sam asks the question, how could the Flint Stephenser reprogram itself to do that? I bet that Chester V is the answer. That bet actually ended up being wrong. And that's not a spoiler there, that was just incorrect assumption. By the way, there's been Earl and Manny. Oh, how do I get back up there? Now, Chester versus Barb. Chester V and Barb, Chester's sidekick, who is an ape with a human brain, shows up to join in after Flint almost loses the USB device to shut down his machine. That, and Tim, Flint's father, gets off the boat to find them. But that changes very quickly. I'll explain that in a minute. But who's that voice in Barb? She sounds familiar. I didn't write the actors' names down, but I will in the description of the main actors that I've mentioned so far, including Barb. She just sounded familiar. The name's not coming to me, though, without looking it up. But moving on with the review, Chester V plants an idea in Flint's head, and we're still not in the spoilers yet. Trust me here. He plants an idea into Flint's head that Brent, who was a bully to Flint originally, can never change to be his friend, although he already has. Well, luckily, Sam fixes that quick. Tim is now back on the boat, and he's showing living pickles how to fish for sardines, enjoying their company. There are many scenes like that this one with Flint and his friends that are going on, and I'll explain one of them when I get into spoilers, that have already happened, and I just want to leave them out so that you've got plenty of entertainment to see when you see the movie. There's this one particular scene, as I said, I will bring up when we get into spoilers. Earl mentions he doesn't trust Chester and takes Flint aside to plant, as Chester takes Flint aside and plant doubts about Sam. Oh, brother, you gotta be kidding me here. Before I go into spoilers, let me say that we see that when they meet the tacodile has babies. Now, this may complicate things, and it does start the spoiler section. Before I go into the spoiler section, let me see if there's anything else I can say. The answer is no, not really. So, there are complications in this movie. Things are going to come into play, and believe me, there's still yet a lot that I have yet to explain. Plenty to see in this movie. As I said, it gets an 8 out of 11. I did not see the 3D version. I honestly didn't think it was worth it. If the movie, if the company who launches the movie wants to put the 3D version at 9 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock, then the 3D must not be worth it, honestly. In most, it wasn't just my theater, a majority of theaters were not showing it at 7 o'clock. And if you're saying, but it was opening day, well, there are no 3D movies out right now, and opening day is when it should have the 3D. Okay, now into spoilers. Sam tries to talk to Flint about how they should study the animals rather than kill them by turning off the machine. But this time the manipulation has been successful. Sam leaves with Earl and Manny, but when she trains a giant cheeseburger, she decides to go back for him to prove it. I can also now say, since landing on the island, Sam's been carrying around a strawberry named Barry, as if it was Flint's monkey friend, Steve. That's basically her friend now. Flint's got his monkey friend Steve, who's always with him, and she's always carrying around Barry. Now, Flint is scared of Barry. He's scared of this living food. Well, everyone is at first, but he's scared of every living food. When he gets to the machine with Chester, his mind is finally changed as he watches a marshmallow come to life. But Chester reveals his true intentions to Flint at this point. Flint escapes, brought to a giant gathering of food by Barry, who manages to escape capture while all his friends are captured. At this giant thing of food, we discover that all the food worships him for him creating them. Barry translates as he gives a big speech to the food army, and then they break into the factory. Barry saves all the food animals that have been captured, and Flint goes to save his friends. Meanwhile, Barb, the monkey assistant, as Steve and Chester keep calling her, is getting a little annoyed with always being called a monkey. And there was a point earlier, just a few minutes earlier, where Sam was talking to Barb about how, why is she working for Chester? He doesn't appreciate her. Barb is having doubts about serving Chester, and after being fired for for voicing these doubts about killing Flint's friends. She joins the team, Flint's side, for the final fight, which ends with Chester V eaten by the giant cheeseburger. After narrowly avoiding the food peeler, the movie ends with Flint trying to learn to fish, something he never did in the first movie. You know, his father was a fisher. And catching a very small one. Very small. Like a sardine size, but not a sardine. Stay at the movie. I should have said this a little earlier, but here we go. Stay there at the movie throughout the until the rolling credits begin. That's the one that goes up. When the credits actually start, there is a cartoon sequence during the first part of the credits. It shows what life is like when the Swallow Falls residents return. There are two live action skits too, mixed in here, and I thought that was interesting. Then there's one final sequence back in the normal animation of the movie of Barb asking Steve to dinner. 8. I didn't see this movie getting it, but here we go. 8.